Good evening and welcome to NTD News. I'm Stephania Cox. Here are today's top stories. The Biden administration releases the first ever national plan to tackle domestic terrorism. They say it will focus on long-term sustainable solutions. Dr. Fauci's salary is higher than that of the President of the United States. And in light of the recent emails that have surfaced, some Republican members of Congress are sponsoring legislation to bring his salary down to zero. A Fox 26 Houston reporter says the company's viewers are being deceived. The now suspended reporter goes over her story with Project Veritas. A San Francisco supermarket is hit by another daylight robbery. The suspect and his trash bag are caught on camera. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signs a new law that requires public schools to give students 1 or 2 minutes of silence each morning. The time is for a moment of quiet reflection or prayer. The Biden administration rolls out the first ever national strategy for countering domestic terrorism today. Attorney General Merrick Garland emphasized in his speech that the administration would focus on long-term sustainable solutions.
The White House released a 30-page plan to address domestic terrorism on Tuesday. It is based on a sweeping assessment earlier this year that labeled white supremacists and militia groups as top national security threats.
Our current effort comes on the heels of another large and heinous attack, this time the January 6th assault on our nation's capital.
The new national strategy supports increased information sharing between federal and local officials and social media companies, additional resources to identify and prosecute threats, and new deterrents to prevent Americans from joining dangerous groups. Garland also said in the coming days and months, he would convene an interagency task force dedicated to combating domestic terrorism.
In the FBI's view, the top domestic violent extremist threat comes from racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists, specifically those who advocated for the superiority of the white race.
In Biden's budget proposal for 2022, he sought $100 million in additional funding to train and hire analysts and prosecutors to disrupt and deter terrorist activity. Garland emphasized that the administration would focus on addressing the root causes of violence and seek long-term solutions. He also said that the new initiative won't be used to pursue the administration's political opponents.
We are focused on violence, not on ideology.
The administration is toughening the federal government's screening methods to better identify employees who may pose insider threats. They are also looking to share those techniques with private sectors.
Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene and 8 of her Republican colleagues are calling for a full investigation into Dr. Fauci's agency, the NIAID, and their funding to the Wuhan lab before the CCP virus outbreak. And they want Fauci's salary reduced to $0. NTD's Steve Lance brings us more from Washington.
The Fire Fauci Act appears to be gaining steam in the House. Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene introduced the bill and says that the support from her colleagues to sponsor the bill has since doubled. She says that Fauci's emails have opened more eyes to Fauci's missteps during the pandemic.
You see, Dr. Fauci was not elected by the American people. He was not chosen to guide our economy. He was not chosen to rule over parents and their children's education.
The bill highlights the fact that Dr. Fauci is the highest paid employee in the federal government, with a higher salary than the President of the United States. The bill also suggests that Dr. Fauci has been giving contradictory information when it comes to the pandemic. Congressman Mo Brooks, who is running for United States Senate in Alabama, is a co-sponsor of the Fire Fauci Act. He said that there were too many times Fauci had to backtrack on his words.
In February of 2020, Fauci declared there was little effectiveness to wearing masks. Yet, in January of 2021, Fauci declared that double masking was, quote, common sense, end quote, and, quote, likely more effective, end quote. Dr. Fauci is consistent in just one thing, and that is inconsistency.
In an interview after the press conference, Congresswoman Greene told us that she thought more lives could have been saved if the use of hydroxychloroquine had not been politicized.
He needs to be held accountable for is he was telling people that hydroxychloroquine did not work and that scientific studies did not back it up, when there were doctors like doing everything they could to call attention to the fact that they were saving lives.
The Congresswoman is also concerned her Democrat colleagues lack the tenacity to hold China accountable for their lack of transparency when it comes to the CCP virus.
Something we can come together on, and that's holding people accountable and getting the truth out on such a terrible thing that's hurt all of us. Then what can we come together on?
Although Congresswoman Green's bill calls attention to the way Dr. Fauci handled the pandemic, a big part of her message was also how China has handled the virus. Steve Lance, NTD News, Washington, D.C.
A San Francisco supermarket was hit by another daylight robbery. The suspect and his trash bag were all caught on camera.
On Monday, a thief stole a garbage bag full of items from the shelves of a Walgreens store in San Francisco. An ABC reporter, security guard, and another woman also caught the robbery on camera. The security guard tried to grab the bag, but the thief rode off with it on a bicycle. The video later went viral. Proposition 47 is often blamed for the increase in shoplifting. It reduced penalties for thefts under $950, and the San Francisco District Attorney, Chesa Boudin, is often called out for not doing enough.
It's been about the last year and a half where it started to get really bad, and I think it started with the election of this current district attorney and the message that has been sent by him, the dog whistling to the criminals that certain laws will not be enforced. And we see it now coming to fruition where people can walk into stores like this and just rob the stores and take whatever they want, not having to pay for it.
Locals are working to recall Boudin.
Suddenly now we see in the last year and a half, an explosion in this kind of crime, where you have individuals, you've got people that are in cars, in vans, pull up outside of a store, a convenience store, a chain pharmacy, and fill up their bags, fill up duffel bags. And as we saw in this video that we were referencing, this guy on a bicycle came in and filled up a big black trash bag, which is as much as he could. Probably was worth more than $950, but no one's really gonna go and check.
Greenberg has also seen these kinds of looting happen firsthand around Valentine's Day.
There was a obvious disheveled gentleman that was in there, and he was loading up his arms with Valentine's Day boxes of candy that are heart-shaped. And he grabbed as much as he could, and he ran out. Around the same time I was exiting as well, and came right past me.
He said there was a security guard there trying to deter the man. The thief dropped everything on the sidewalk, spoiling the merchandise. Security guards are often told to stand down to avoid injuring anyone and starting lawsuits for the store they are working at. The DA has been facing a recall since March. The recall effort needs 51,000 signatures by August 11th. As of now, it has surpassed 35,000.
Unfortunately, there's zero confidence from the police to the district attorney's office. They're not doing their jobs because they're fearing that they're going to get hurt. They're not going to take the risks that they used to take anymore. They're checking in and they're leaving, and at the end of the day, and unfortunately, it's the citizens of San Francisco that end up suffering because we have such a broken system.
Last month, Supervisor Asha Safai held a hearing regarding commercial shoplifting in neighborhood small businesses and anchor stores. During the hearing, Walgreens and CVS reported high levels of organized retail theft in San Francisco. A CVS representative called San Francisco the epicenter of organized retail theft, and that it resulted in 85% of the company's profit loss. In the last 5 years, 17 Walgreens stores have closed down due to rampant looting and organized shoplifting. Neither Walgreens nor the city's DA office responded for a comment. Eileen Ang, NTD News, California.
A Fox News reporter is accusing the company she works for of suppressing information from their viewers and crafting biased narratives. She's now been suspended. NTD's Miguel Moreno has that story.
Fox 26 reporter Ivory Hecker went out on a limb during this Monday live shot in Montgomery County, Texas.
Fox Corp has been muzzling me to keep certain information from you, the viewers, and from what I'm gathering, I am not the only reporter being subjected to this.
A day later, Project Veritas published an interview with the reporter who says she's doing this because viewers are being deceived. Included was audio Hecker says she recorded of her directors.
Fox came at my throat for standing up against censorship.
In this video, she asked Dr. Joseph Varon from United Memorial Medical Center about using hydroxychloroquine to treat COVID-19 patients, a question Hecker says she wasn't supposed to ask.
We have used it. I mean, we know that it's a drug that has been politicized up to the wazoo. We've used it. We use it with good success.
That was a story, by the way, that Susan and Lee sent me there to cover the COVID treatments at that hospital. I just wasn't supposed to ask that question.
You need to cease and desist posting about hydroxychloroquine. In my opinion, you failed as a reporter.
The Fox 26 assistant director later says this is not just about the viewers. It's about what our CEO reads. We contacted Fox 26 Houston about what happened, but they haven't gotten back to us. Hecker cited other examples of what she felt was wrong at the company. According to Project Veritas, she's been suspended from the station. This is the second Fox News reporter to publicly oppose the direction of their newsrooms this year. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
A team from the White House met with House Democrats today. They discussed a strategy for moving forward with Biden's American Jobs Plan and Families Plan. NTD's Melina Weisskopf has more from Capitol Hill.
For the first time in a while, Democrats held an in-person caucus meeting. A team from the White House came and briefed Democrats on how they plan to move forward with Biden's American Jobs Plan and American Families Plan. They're focusing on a two-track approach. They want to pass this bipartisan infrastructure deal while at the same time working on a reconciliation package. That would include things like child care, paid family leave, free community college. Now, we know Republicans generally oppose those policies. They're concerned about the national debt limit, inflation, a vast expansion of the federal government. We asked the chairman of the Democratic caucus, what's his response to those who may be skeptical of a vast expansion of federal government? Here's what he had to say.
There is nothing ambiguous about that statement. We're going to build back better. We're not going to return to normal.
And it's clear that there will have to be more negotiation talks just within the Democratic Party in order to get this done. Many Democrats have come out and said they will not support a bipartisan deal unless a reconciliation package is guaranteed.
I think it would be very difficult to find the votes for that in the House unless there was a simultaneous movement and agreement of the full reconciliation package with 50 votes in the Senate.
We're saying that there absolutely has to be a guaranteed deal.
And right now, both on the House and the Senate side, reconciliation packages are in the works. Senate Leader Schumer says he's meeting with members of the Budget Committee on Wednesday to finalize some details. And overall, they hope to get something on infrastructure passed by August. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo today launching a new organization to support Republican candidates in the 2022 midterm elections. Pompeo says the new political group Champion American Values PAC aims to protect American values and help Republicans take back majorities in the U.S. House and Senate, as well as governorships and state legislatures across America. He says he intends to stay in the fight where he says America's foundational ideas are under attack more than ever before. Pompeo has been traveling to several states and addressing key political issues in recent months. He's seen as a potential 2024 contender. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has just signed a bill requiring public schools to give students a moment of silence each morning. It aims to give children a chance to reflect or pray as they see fit. NTD's Grace Coulter has the story.
As of July 1st, all public school students in Florida will begin their days with 1 to 2 minutes of silence. This time allows students to pray or reflect in their own personal way. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed the Moment of Silence bill into law on Monday. Before signing the bill, DeSantis rejected the commonly held modern understanding of separation of church and state, drawing a large round of applause.
The idea that you can just push God out of every institution and be successful. I'm sorry, our founding fathers did not believe that. And so we have an opportunity here.
The signing took place at a Jewish community center. Principals at public schools will be required to direct first-period teachers to facilitate the moments of silence. However, the law bans teachers from making suggestions as to the nature of any reflection that a student may engage in.
The measure says that in today's hectic society, too few people are able to experience even a moment of quiet reflection, adding that young people are particularly affected by this. The legislator says a moment of silence will benefit Florida's youth and society as a whole. Spiritual benefits aside, studies show that both prayer and meditation can have positive effects on people's mental health. State Representative Randy Fine, a Republican who sponsored the bill, said, "In this world of technological, media-driven, and societal turmoil, our children desperately need time for quiet reflection, because it is in those fleeting moments that we find our higher purpose." The bill encourages parents to talk with their children and make suggestions for how to best use their time. Grace Coulter, NTD News.
And during the same signing event, DeSantis also signed a bill bolstering volunteer ambulance services, which generally operate in Orthodox Jewish neighborhoods. The bill allows approved volunteer ambulances to use emergency lights when responding to calls. And public colleges in Arizona won't be able to require students to get the CCP virus vaccine. Arizona Governor Doug Ducey signed an executive order today banning those schools from doing so.
The order bans all public colleges and community colleges in the state from requiring the vaccine, proof of vaccination, mandatory virus testing, and mask mandates as a condition for students to attend class. There are exceptions for students working at healthcare centers, and colleges can only do mandatory virus testing if there's a serious outbreak in a student dorm and the Arizona Health Department approves it. The governor says his state will not mandate the vaccine. This decision comes a day after Arizona State University announced different treatments for vaccinated and unvaccinated students. The school is going to require unvaccinated students to undergo daily health checks, twice weekly virus tests, and they have to wear a mask both indoor and outdoor. Ducey blasted the school's policy, calling it social engineering at its worst. He also criticized the school in the executive order, saying the school was attempting to usurp the constitutional authority of the state government.
Firefighters in Illinois are in their second day of battling a chemical plant blaze. 80 different fire departments have responded, and officials expect the fire could burn for days. Around 100 miles northwest of Chicago, the lubricant manufacturing plant called Chem exploded on Monday. About 150 homes were evacuated, and one firefighter was brought to the hospital for respiratory issues. The 500,000 gallons of oil continue to burn out, but the thick black smoke has changed to a whiter shade of gray. A 1-mile radius evacuation zone around the plant is still in effect today, and anyone within 3 miles is asked to wear a mask. What's more, an industrial firefighting crew has dug trenches around the plant to prevent residue from flowing into the nearby Rock River. And coming up, New York City opens its first Immigrant Welcome Center. It's located in Queens and will provide services to immigrants regardless of their immigration status. And New York is launching fireworks throughout the state tonight. It's to celebrate the city reopening just in time for the start of summer. More soon here on NTD News. New York's Queens has a new Immigrant Welcome Center. It will provide immigration services for residents of all nationalities and languages. NTD's Jason Perry attended the ribbon-cutting ceremony.
1, 2, 3.
Over 1 million Queens residents were born outside of the United States. And now residents, regardless of their immigration status, language, or nationality, can get services in the newly opened Immigrant Welcome Center at Queensborough Hall. Assemblywoman Catalina Cruz, who was an illegal immigrant herself, explained the importance of a facility like this.
And imagine trying to open up a small business, or going through a divorce, or needing an immigration lawyer, or trying to apply for an employment insurance, and you have to go to 5 different places. We're a complex community, we have many issues, and now we have one place where we can go and find the help that we need.
But the building offers more than just legal help. Queensborough President Donovan Richards told attendees what they can expect.
Here. If you need food assistance, housing assistance, all of these wraparound services exist right in these schools.
Residents can also get ID NYC at Queensborough Hall. ID NYC is a government-issued photo ID provided to New Yorkers regardless of immigration status. And cardholders have access to a variety of services and programs provided by the city. Locals seem pleased with the new Immigrant Welcome Center. Many are from immigrant families as well.
Well, this is a city of immigrants. Queens is the most culturally diverse borough in New York City. I'm the daughter of immigrants, and I think that any support that immigrants can receive in this city is a good measure forward.
My two grandmothers are from Poland as well. My grandpa Irving, who owned 2 Italian restaurants, is from Romania. So I think it's great that all immigrants are welcome.
The new Immigrant Welcome Center will be on the 2nd floor of this building. They expressed hopes of one day having it open for walk-ins, but currently with COVID restrictions in place, all visits to the office will need to be done by appointment only. Jason Perry, NTD News, New York.
New York State was at one point during the pandemic one of the worst hit places worldwide. That has since changed, and now officials are saying people can get back to life as normal. NTD's Arian Pazdar has more.
It looks like lockdowns might be a thing of the past. At least in New York, the state is lifting all remaining virus restrictions, and that includes social and commercial settings. Now, the governor made the announcement after the state reached its goal of vaccinating 70% of its residents.
Congratulations to New Yorkers, because they are the ones who did it. We're no longer just surviving.
New York is celebrating the vaccination milestone and the lifting of virus restrictions. Fireworks throughout the state Tuesday night at 9:30, from Niagara Falls all the way to Long Island. In the New York City area, seen at New York Harbor, Jones Beach and Nyack. And 13 landmarks across the state lit in blue and gold, the state's colors. Some of those are the Empire State Building, the One World Trade Center and Niagara Falls. Cuomo says vaccinating 70% is the national goal, and New York State actually reached it ahead of schedule. But it looks like some are still in doubt about getting the shot. For example, in the Bronx and in Brooklyn, less than 50% of residents have been vaccinated so far. I'm Arian Pastar, NTD News, New York.
An art exhibit in Plano, Texas offers viewers a message of hope, but it's bittersweet. The stories told reveal heartbreaking human rights abuses still happening in China today.
The Jin Shan, or Truthfulness, Compassion, and Forbearance art exhibit opened on June 2nd and will be on display until July 2nd at the Courtyard Theater in Plano, Texas. The exhibit has been featured in over 900 cities and 50 countries around the world, receiving numerous proclamations and letters of support. It offers unique insight into the spiritual discipline Falun Gong, as well as the ongoing human rights crisis happening in China. The works mainly come from Chinese artists. Many portray the brutal persecutions the artists have endured, often highlighting themes like quiet inner strength in the face of injustice. The art exhibit features award-winning pieces from NTD's International Figure Painting Competition. Realistic oil paintings and Chinese watercolor pieces are also showcased. State representatives and council members from Texas make up just a few of the exhibit's most recent guests. Here's what they had to say.
So the art is really profound. It's a profound expression of the horrors of communist China and their forced organ harvesting, and it's a very, very powerful exhibit, very powerful.
Councilman Young Sung said that the exhibition reminded him of a quote by Aristotle.
Educating mind without educating heart is no education at all. So it's education is important, not just general education. Art education has a great connection with the human mind, human soul, and the human spirit.
Some audience members were moved to tears. One of the featured artists stated that an artist displays his true self through his artwork. If the artist is a good person, filled with pure and kind thoughts, then his works will reflect the same positivity to an audience. Great artwork has an energy that can benefit people. This is our intention.
Bring tissues, okay, because this exhibition will get to your heart. That's how paintings, how artwork goes. It goes to the heart of you when you see what people are expressing and recognize the truth of it.
It is outstanding. I really didn't know what to expect. I read about it, but I really didn't know what to expect, and it's very touching. The artwork is beautiful, and of course the stories on it. It kind of brings you to tears because you hear about it but when you see the picture, they're so real.
The exhibit is held in part in recognition of a Texas Senate resolution condemning China's practice of involuntary organ harvesting. Governor Abbott recently signed the measure after it passed in the House. State Representative Matt Shaheen co-sponsored the bill.
Sure, it's really important that the state of Texas take a stand as far as condemning the practice by the Chinese government in the forced organ harvesting of practitioners of Falun Gong and really a lot of faiths and religions that are practiced in China.
According to independent and international investigations, it's believed that the Chinese Communist Party has been harvesting organs from hundreds of thousands of incarcerated people in China, mainly Falun Gong practitioners and other prisoners of conscience. Falun Gong is a spiritual practice based around meditation that China banned over 20 years ago. Thousands of members have been jailed, tortured, or lost their lives since the CCP launched its persecution. The exhibit is free to the public at the Courtyard Theater, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Coming up, California reopens today. Several Californians say they're ready to return to normal after the long lockdown. And with the help of infrared cameras, a California drone pilot has a unique method of rescuing animals trapped in disaster zones. More in just a moment here on NTD News.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm going to pass the savings directly on to you. For example, you get my 6-piece towel sets, regular $109.99, now only $44.98, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
It's just clear as day. The media, whether it's broadcast, cable, or print media, has become extremely biased. And I started looking online for alternative ways to get information. And I saw an ad for a free trial. And I looked at it and I said, Epoch Times. I mean, come on, this is end of days type of stuff. I mean, what are they going to be talking about here? And I said, well, it's a free trial. Let me dig in. Is it giving me both sides? Is it giving me an objective point of view here? I have looked for opportunities to see where they might be biased, and I don't find it. It has given me a level of trust in media that I didn't think I'd ever get back. I love the Epoch Times because it has renewed my faith in the idea that a reliable, responsible, non-biased source of information is available. And I can say that I love it because of that.
After being locked down over a year, California now reopens its economy on June 15th. NTD's David Lamb speaks with several Californians, and some say they're ready to return to normal.
Under California's new health order, businesses such as restaurants, malls, and retail can now operate at 100% capacity. Social distancing and the colored tier system is removed.
I'm extremely pleased. I'm very happy. A year and a half is way too long.
Even though customers are returning, this owner says there are still obstacles. He says he's fortunate to break even financially.
It's just really surprising about the cost of goods, anywhere from 40 to 60% more.
One manager says he's excited for the reopening, but also anxious. He says most of his staff left during the pandemic and looked for other jobs.
I'm anxious because I still not ready for in terms of labor, manpower. I don't have all 100% staff yet.
Businesses are allowed to check customers for vaccine status. Some restaurant owners told NTD they will not enforce vaccine checks on customers. The governor ordered a statewide lockdown and increased restrictions last March to respond to COVID-19, also known as the CCP virus.
And yes, as you saw me walk up the stage, move beyond mask coverings and move beyond wearing these masks.
The state follows the CDC mask guidelines, which says if you're vaccinated, masks are not required in most settings, except public transit or in mega events, which are events that hold 5,000 plus people indoors or 10,000 plus outdoors.
But I think in the Bay Area, generally, we have pretty good vaccination rates. I think people are pretty conscious and safe. So by and large here locally, I'm feeling pretty comfortable.
I think a lot of us are ready. I personally am ready.
For sure, for sure.
Some businesses say they will open in phases to gradually adapt to normalcy. Indoor K-12 schools still require masks. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
When disaster strikes, rescue is never far behind. A California drone cinematographer developed a unique way to rescue animals in disaster zones using high-tech infrared cameras. NTD's Cynthia Kai has the story.
Douglas Thrawn is an experienced drone pilot who uses high-tech infrared cameras attached to drones. He uses these drones to find animals trapped under rubble or stuck in trees after disasters.
Then I built a big custom drone and put a bigger infrared camera on it and a spotlight and a zoom lens, and then just started rescuing animals all over the place. Bahamas, Australia with koalas after the fires, and Oregon, Louisiana with fires and hurricanes, and now I've pretty much been on the road for about 2 years straight doing it.
Before working in animal rescue, he worked as a drone cinematographer for numerous TV shows. Thrawn found his inspiration for using infrared cameras during one of his filming assignments. His subject was using an infrared scope to rescue missing cats from extinguished fires. This sparked the idea to attach infrared cameras to drones for animal rescue. Thrawn says his infrared drones can find animals no matter the size, even as small as a mouse. He has rescued hundreds of animals to date and wants to expand his business by training other drone pilots to use this technology.
I mean, with the natural disasters getting bigger and bigger, my ultimate goal is to have an animal rescue ranch where people can come and adopt these animals, because the bulk of the animals are not, their owners are never found, or they're abandoned animals. And then also, along with having the animal rescue ranch, I want to be training qualified drone pilots how to use this infrared technology and rescue animals as well.
Thrawn's work in emergency zones is the subject of a 6-part documentary series titled Dog to the Rescue on CuriosityStream. Cynthia Kai, NTD News, California.
With fires already sparking across California, one man is gearing up for another long wildfire season. He's ready to roll in with his air traffic control towers, which are on wheels. Matthew Laratonda reports.
Delta High Flight, Titus Gall, also known as Stretch, is gearing up for another long wildfire season in California. The state's drought emergency is worsening, and the fires have already sparked in many locations. And this is his answer. He's the president of Tower Tech Incorporated and designed these mobile air traffic control towers mounted on a trailer to help manage the airspace over the fires. His 3 towers are contracted to government forestry and fire protection agencies and can set up within 24 hours.
They're actually, they're fighting a fire. They need to come and go as quickly and efficiently as they can. So we have to put forth the effort to make that happen. So yes, there is some urgency to the work, but it's always got to stay safe. That's why we're there, to keep airplanes apart.
Gall was an air traffic controller for the Navy and the FAA, who retired only to start his own business 5 days later. He's fulfilling a unique role, sometimes close to the front line, but usually right off the runway itself. Inside the towers, everything is set up for his employees' comfort. A refrigerator, a freezer, a toilet, even a shower. So,
Here we are inside the tower.
As well as television and DVDs. The job has its rewards, he says, but this is a serious business.
I'm 72 years old, and I'm still thrilled to talk to airplanes. It makes me feel great, and people, if we go to a briefing at CAL FIRE and we have a particularly busy day, and the briefing in the morning, and all of a sudden one of the tanker pilots will stand up and say, "Man, thank the tower for being here. Man, you guys did a great job yesterday." You can imagine that makes you feel good, because this is not a game.
As of May, California authorities had documented that over 1,000 more wildfires so far this year had erupted by the same point in 2020. Last year's wildfire season was the worst on record, with colossal damage and at least 33 lives lost.
Coming up, military activities intensify in the Indo-Pacific. A U.S. carrier group conducts exercises in the South China Sea, and the U.S. is allowing South Korea to produce missiles with no range limits for the first time. And a young Chinese person does a 180 from Chinese Communist Party supporter to CCP critic. That's after he faced a possible 7-year jail sentence for watching YouTube in China. More in just a moment on NTD News. Taiwan reported the largest incursion by Chinese military jets today. At the same time, a U.S. Navy carrier group is doing exercises in the South China Sea, and the U.S. is doing away with a cap on South Korea's ballistic missiles. NTD's Tiffany Meyer brings us more.
Chinese military jets are patrolling Taiwan on an unprecedented scale. This, according to the island's Air Force. On Tuesday, an official report from Taiwan outlined air activity inside the island's Southwestern Air Defense Identification Zone, called the ADIZ. The information shows that China's Air Force flew almost 30 military jets into Taiwan's airspace. Some even flew from the southwestern zone to southeastern ADIZ zone before turning around. This marks the largest jet fleet to enter Taiwan since last September. That's when the Taiwanese military first released reports about Chinese military jet activity in its air defense zone. Data released says the latest fleet involved 2 slow military aircraft alongside fighter jets and bombers. But in past flyovers, China's military only sent out its Y-8. It's an anti-submarine aircraft mainly used for maritime patrol and general transport. Taiwan's Defense Department responded quickly, sending out air patrol forces, radio warnings, and air defense missiles. A U.S. aircraft carrier group has entered the South China Sea as part of a routine mission, the U.S. Navy said on Tuesday. Supercarrier USS Ronald Reagan leads the group. This is the carrier group's first time in the South China Sea this year. The U.S. Navy said while in the South China Sea, the strike group is conducting maritime security operations, which include flight operations with fixed and rotatory wing aircraft, maritime strike exercises, and coordinated tactical training between surface and air units. They added that carrier operations in the South China Sea are part of the U.S. Navy's routine presence in the Indo-Pacific. The Navy statement also said the move is to uphold U.S. alliances with regional allies and to demonstrate U.S. Navy's ability to quickly respond to any contingency across the region. U.S. warships have passed through the South China Sea more frequently in recent years. This as the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, is building more artificial islands and air bases in the area. The U.S.'s move is likely a show of force against Beijing's unlawful territorial claims there. The U.S. is removing an almost decade-long range limit on South Korea's ballistic missiles. This means the country can now build missiles that can reach a number of cities in North China, including Beijing. This comes amid the Chinese regime's expansion of its nuclear capabilities, and after the U.S. reinforced its alliance with South Korea in a meeting last month. So far, Beijing has not protested against the move. From now on, South Korea can build missiles without any limits on range, up from a previous 500-mile cap. Having more well-armed allies could prove to be useful for the U.S., particularly as chatter of military conflict increased recently. The U.S. had such range limits on South Korea since 1979. At the time, the limit was around 110 miles. In 2001, the U.S. increased the cap to about 185 miles and upped it again in 2012 to 500 miles. Even with the freedom to build missiles, South Korea is unlikely to make nuclear ones. That's because the country has signed onto the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. It's an international treaty that limits nuclear armament.
Just a little taste of freedom made a young Chinese man rethink the communist society he grew up in. But the wish to know more about the outside world brought him danger and forever changed his life. NTD's Penny Zhou reports.
You may have heard of VPN, or Virtual Private Network. It disguises your IP address when you go online and tricks the internet into believing you are in some other locations. In America, many people use them to watch Netflix shows only available in certain countries. But in communist China, using VPNs is much more serious than hurting the feelings of Netflix. People may end up getting arrested by Chinese police and have their lives ruined for it. And that's exactly what happens to Chen Yuzhen, a 24-year-old recent college graduate. He has escaped China and now lives in South Korea. To protect his identity and the safety of his family and friends who still live in China, we gave him a pseudonym.
I thought China should be more open by now. What kind of era are we living in? Things that are that absurd shouldn't happen, but it did happen to me, myself. That's when I realized how dangerous it is to use a VPN.
Chen got in trouble for using a VPN to get around the Chinese regime's internet censorship called the Great Firewall. The virtual wall blocks Chinese residents from accessing websites that contain contents critical of the Chinese Communist regime, including YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. But Chen wasn't really watching anything that should strike the nerve of the CCP. He used a VPN mainly to follow YouTubers who make lifestyle contents.
It was really just life-related, but they still wanted to control me. I was not watching anything political. Seriously, I used to be a little pink, and I never cared about politics.
Little Pink refers to young Chinese netizens who are fervent supporters of the CCP. They lash out against anyone who criticized China or the Chinese regime, both in China and abroad. But Chen started to gradually change his views after he went to Taiwan as an exchange student. Communist China has never ruled the democratic island, but has long claimed it as its own territory. There, Chen witnessed a different way to care about one's country.
One time, there was a Taiwanese student group saying they were going to go to the Luodong or Yilan municipal government to protest. So I just followed my classmates and went there. We set up camps in front of the government building. My classmates and I were there. We were helping and encouraging each other. And then I just felt so touched. I realized what it's like to care about social issues.
He was also amazed at how the Taiwanese people react to different views.
When I was in Taiwan, I told people there were good things in China, or I talked about a lot of things they didn't like, but they would not attack me. They respected different views.
After going back to China, he started to comment online about social problems once in a while. He felt he was just voicing his opinions in a rational way and said nothing out of line. But Chinese police thought otherwise.
My account on Chinese social media Zhihu was shut down, and then my WeChat account was also shut down.
And one early morning last June, plainclothes police officers broke into the apartment he and his friends shared and started searching. Everything was turned upside down in no time.
I asked what department they belonged to, but they refused to answer. They just kept searching everywhere and looking for electronic devices, mobile phones, and others. They asked if I had connections to any foreign forces, whether I had joined any organizations, and so on, which I really had not. Then they asked if we had any foreign classmates or friends that we keep in touch with and asked us to show them. That's when they saw we have a VPN app on our phones and some chat history which we didn't delete. They saw it all.
The police also found out Chen had shared the VPN software with others, and that made them even more unhappy. Chen eventually faced a criminal charge that may land him up to 7 years in prison. Chinese officials claim VPNs are permitted in China, but they have to be approved by authorities. The Chinese regime in 2017 cracked down on unauthorized VPNs and arrested multiple people. Beijing then officially criminalized unauthorized VPNs in 2018. For Chen, it was not easy waiting for his sentence.
I was really anxious. Every day I could not sleep well. If you are sentenced because of a criminal charge, your life is tainted. And I think this isn't good, because it will have an impact on the future of my next generation, my son or daughter. It will affect them if they were to take any exams or if they want to enter the government for work. So out of such considerations, I thought I should escape that place.
Although he was forced to go into exile, Chen said he doesn't believe it's sustainable for the Chinese regime to impose social control by arresting people.
There are just so many people bypassing the firewall nowadays. If you want to arrest them, you will not be able to arrest them all.
Chen has since started a YouTube channel where he shared his views on social issues. His latest episode is titled, "Loving China is not the same as loving the Communist Party." Penny Zhou, NTD News.
Coming up, police officers and vans patrol Geneva on Tuesday, a day before a summit between President Biden and Russia's President Vladimir Putin. And American and Dutch engineers team up in Amsterdam to develop automated boats. All that and more in just a minute here on NTD News.
The wait is finally over. Shen Yun returns to the stage with an all-new production filled with beauty, majesty, and a powerful message of hope. Discover the lost culture of ancient China. Discover this season, Shen Yun 2021. Coming to the Palace Theater, June 26th and 27th. Tickets at shenyun.com/Stamford.
Police officers and vans patrol Geneva on Tuesday, a day before a summit between President Biden and Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Biden and Putin will meet in an 18th century Swiss villa overlooking Lake Geneva in Switzerland. Officials set up security fences along the streets near the meeting venue, and media stations have already parked their trucks across from the villa. The weather forecast for Wednesday is sunny and warm, but the meeting is expected to be a bit chilly. The U.S. and Russia are in dispute over many issues like spying, hacking, election meddling, Ukraine, Belarus, and human rights. Biden called Putin a killer in March and indicated Russia's behavior is unacceptable in many ways. He also pointed to Russia's own dilemmas, its post-Soviet economic collapse, which he called overreach in Syria, and problems with the CCP virus. Neutral Switzerland lobbied hard to host the summit. It's the first in the Alpine country in decades. Switzerland did not join Western sanctions against Russia for its 2014 annexation of the Crimea region from Ukraine.
The one-year delay of the Tokyo Olympics has let some athletes down, but for others it may be a blessing in disguise. A German canoe slalom world champion tells us about his ambitious training plans and his quest for Olympic gold.
Battling with white rapids, racing through gates marked by poles, the 32-year-old German paddler is surfing his way into this year's Tokyo Olympics. He is a world champion in canoe slalom.
My name is Hannes Eigner. My Olympic sport is canoe slalom. I want to win a medal at the Olympic Games in Tokyo this year.
For Eigner, exercising on the clean local water is relaxing. But with a big goal set, it becomes more competitive as he pushes his limits every day. He is now on a rigorous training schedule in Bavaria, Germany. From Monday to Saturday, he has 2 sessions on water and 1 in the weight room every day. His gym routine is primarily to build up his upper body strength so that he can smoothly navigate the canoe against the rapids. Already a world champion and 2-time Olympic competitor, Eigner is expecting a medal this summer.
It's a great feeling, even though it's now the 3rd time. That alone is a big deal, to be in the Olympic for the 3rd time. No German canoeist has ever achieved that. This is a great achievement, and I think I can somewhat be proud of that.
He says although the Olympics is rescheduled, it is a blessing in disguise for him. That has allowed him to stay with his family a lot over the past year.
Postponing the Olympic Games last year was a bit of a setback. It was frustrating. But I have a 2-year-old son at home and could spend more time with him and see things which I would have missed if I had been preparing for the Olympic Games in Tokyo.
Because Aigner is a so-called sports soldier, the German military finances him. Most recently, he finished 11th place in the European Championships.
Automation technology is moving from land to sea. Recently, American and Dutch engineers are teaming up to develop the world's first fleet of autonomous boats for Amsterdam.
Marine automation is changing the future of waterways in the Netherlands. The Amsterdam Institute for Advanced Metropolitan Solutions is collaborating with MIT on an autonomous boat project. It aims to develop new ways of navigating boats without a human hand at the wheel.
The boat actually, it's able to make images of its surroundings. So if there's other boats in the area, it will detect that and then will try to steer around.
The city of Amsterdam is testing out prototypes of the small electric vessels. Installed with a communication system, the boats can receive signals from a central coordination point. A computer steers the vessels remotely, using data from cameras and sensors that detect the vessel's surroundings. But for developers, the technology is not yet perfect.
We need about 2 to 4 years to get this technology ready, and it's mostly because we want to be absolutely sure that we can navigate safely in the canals. And right now we have the autonomy in place, but one of the next steps is to make sure that we can actually handle any kind of situation that we might encounter in the canals.
The mission of these boats is to perform tasks like transporting passengers and picking up garbage. But before fully applying autonomous operation, developers must first overcome legislative hurdles and privacy concerns.
You can now do semi-autonomous operations, but then you still have to have some remote controls. But in the future it will change, because this is something that is happening in the whole maritime industry.
Amsterdam has a vast array of water canals stretching over 60 miles. Automated navigation boats will be a new way to ease the traffic burden on the streets of the Dutch capital.
Up next, there's a new Best in Show winner for Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show. The pup's owner says he never thought they would win. And watch a pair of camels get a little help preparing for the hot summer months ahead. That and more coming up in a moment on NTD News. As temperatures soared to a high of 82 degrees, 2 camels are given a helping hand to shed their fur at the London Zoo in England.
2 camels got a haircut on a hot day at England's London Zoo on Monday. A video shared by the zoo shows a Bactrian camel named Genghis and his stablemate Noemi snacking on leaves while being brushed by zookeepers in the enclosure. According to the zoo, the keepers removed 12.78 pounds of fur, helping the animals stay cool in hot weather. The zookeeper said camels molt naturally once a year, and Genghis and Noemi were about halfway through theirs. So while the keepers were cleaning their paddock, they helped finish it off for them. The keeper said Noemi loved it and snacked on some tasty leaves while they brushed her. However, like all youngsters having a haircut, there was a certain amount of grumbling, and Genghis didn't hold back in showing them how unimpressed he was.
Wasabi, a fuzzy Pekingese with a black and brown face and soulful eyes, was the top dog in New York on Monday. It posed at the Empire State Building a day after winning the Best in Show category at the Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show.
I never thought he would win, but like I say, it was just a pleasure to be in there.
Less than 24 hours after winning the Best in Show category at the Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show, the very fuzzy black and brown faced Pekingese named Wasabi and his owner David Fitzpatrick took a victory lap atop the Empire State Building Monday.
You know, Pekingese are laid back, and you know, they have very regal disposition, and you know. But when he's in the ring, he knows how to turn it on.
Westminster Kennel Club Director of Communications, Gail Miller-Beischer, explains how Wasabi is a part of a lineage of award-winning pups.
He's the 5th Pekingese to win Best in Show, and it's really interesting because his breeder, owner, handler, David Fitzpatrick. This is his second win with a Pekingese. Wasabi's grandfather actually won Best in Show in 2012. Malachi was his name. And Wasabi's father won the toy group in 2015. So there is a lineage here of top dogs.
This year marked the first time the show was not held in Manhattan. Due to the health crisis, organizers moved the show from Madison Square Garden to the 19th century Lyndhurst Mansion by the Hudson River and delayed it from February so it could be held outside. Wasabi beat out more than 2,500 other dogs to win Best in Show.
And that's all for today's news. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Stephanie Cox. We have a new channel. Subscribe to us on YouTube at NTD News. Get the highlights of our news broadcast and the most important headlines that we curate especially for you.
Don't let YouTube decide what information you get. That's your choice. YouTube is deleting our videos and cuts you off from a source of honest reporting. Make sure you don't lose access to NTD's news content and take a quick moment to subscribe to our newsletter so no matter what happens here, you'll keep your access to a trustworthy news source.